you'll see that welcome back everybody. So throughout the video, you'll see that I chime in with a voiceover. We had some technical difficulties with the audio. So today's reel is going to be very, very informative. I do a call with my boy Zach Kaplan from high school, and he's based out in Florida, very informative health coach, and he talks about his experience with the animal-based diet. Enjoy. Did you first hear about the animal-based diet and why did you get into it?
Yeah. Towards the end of 2022, I really went all in on this diet. And that's because I suffered from Crohn's disease for many years, 18 to 25, a lot of bad flare ups, a lot of periods where I was feeling very sick. Diet actually does have a really big impact on this, despite the doctors telling me otherwise, right? Paul Saladino, you probably have heard of him. Everybody knows about yeah, crazy dude. So he talks so much about people healing from autoimmune diseases, right? I wasn't focused on losing weight, getting shredded, nothing like that. It was just about how can I heal an autoimmune disease through diet. So I found the animal-based diet. Within 2 weeks, I started seeing incredible improvements. And then a month or two in, I was just feeling amazing. A couple months after I had been on this diet, I went back in to see my gastroenterologist, and I had a colonoscopy, one of my routine colonoscopies that I had to have being a Crohn's patient. And there was no sign of inflammation. So not only had I been feeling so great, but the doctor said, you have no sign of this disease right now. And decided to wean off of my medications. And day by day, I just started feeling, looking healthier in every way. And it actually helped me lose 20 pounds of fat and putting muscle back on, largely largely that was because of getting help from a physical therapist. So Fred Wise um, told me that my post had really inspired him.
How would you describe having Crohn's disease?
It's truly hard to describe to someone that hasn't dealt with the disease or had someone close to them. Lots of abdominal pain, right? And a lot of urgency and anxiety that brings. That was really brutal. And being a young guy, 18, 19, 20, and sort of being in denial, not wanting to believe that I was sick, people noticing things wrong with me, and I would say things like, I'm just having some stomach issues right now, and sort of telling white lies or hiding what I was dealing with, wanting to find ways to heal myself. And that's when, a couple of years later, I came across this diet, but I came out a better person because.
What does a typical day in a life diet look like?
Sure, bro. I normally do 3 meals on eggs. I love like boiled eggs, hard boiled eggs. My wife makes me, or I will fry up some eggs in the morning. And I like to cook in beef tallow and beef fat, something organic bacon. I really like to eat bacon, but I try to avoid most of the bacon from the stores that have potentially harmful ingredients like nitrates and such. The eggs and some organic bacon, or eggs and some Greek yogurt. Lunch, I might do a couple burger patties and some watermelon. I like to mix up some meat and fruit. Dinner, I might fry up some pork chops, again, organic or quality pork, or I might roast some turkey legs. I try to eat meat on the bone or meat that has a lot of collagen, because that definitely is very good for my gut health. So instead of just always eating muscle meat or steak and stuff, I try to do cuts that are on the bone or have that connective tissue. And sometimes I'll do like sweet potato or white rice, like certain carbohydrates that I can digest well, or I'll just continue with more fruits on the side.
Do you take any supplements?
Right now, I'm taking quite a few supplements just because I was really trying to make it, take it to the next level with my health. For example, vitamin D, like you get some vitamin D in the egg yolks, and vitamin D is great, to get from sunlight. Like that is magnesium, so I'll occasionally take magnesium. I also like some dark chocolate, like quality dark chocolate in my diet to get enough magnesium. Ostrum, which more people are starting to find out about now. Doing a few of Paul Saladino's organ pills just to help me get more in when I don't make the organs myself, but I will occasionally do that too. So TUDCA, it's TUDCA. It helps your liver produce bile so you can digest fats very efficiently. I want to make sure I'm digesting the fats as good as possible, because sometimes if you accidentally overdo it on the fats, then you may have, not as good of digestion. So that's another thing I take as well.
Did you have any setbacks getting into this diet?
You know, most part I really didn't, and it's not like every day was perfect, digestion wise, but every day was really good. 8 years of so many bad days, and really seeing that night and day difference is easy to stick to because when you can see the difference, that's going to keep you on track, And I think as I dove into it, it was simultaneously changing my relationship with food. I was realizing, you know what? It's okay to not eat the fried food at the restaurant. I'm really enjoying the foods that I eat with animal based, which is why I think animal based diet is such a crucial diet because you're getting plenty of delicious proteins and fats and even carbohydrates that it really helps you beat the cravings because you can substitute it for really foods that are really still delicious. I was okay with perhaps missing out or when I go to the restaurant, being a weirdo because I didn't have any of the bread. I didn't have any, I just had a water and a steak, and I was able to put maybe embarrassment or shame behind me because I just was so hyped up about how good I felt.
Why do you think people speak so negatively towards the animal-based diet?
People find much better results when they stop eating vegetables because of autoimmune conditions. People that don't actually look into it, they take it as a threat and saying, "Oh, vegetables, are you saying vegetables aren't healthy?" Blah blah blah. And that's not necessarily what Paul's saying. He's just saying that they may not be healthy for everyone, and they may not be what everybody has claimed them to be. I was one of those people that did amazing when I stopped eating them. And then another thing that my guess would be is because Paul and the animal-based perspective really against processed foods. Lastly, just the last thing would be the saturated fat myth, in my opinion. But eating foods like red meat and dairy and eggs must be in moderation because they have saturated fat. We know that cholesterol rich foods are so good for your brain and for the body in general. And many of those heart disease studies are not causation, they're only correlation. We'll say things like, oh, red meat causes heart disease. But when that study, all the participants had listed that they ate things like burgers from McDonald's or lasagna or hot dogs from the baseball game. And then the study says, "Oh, well, look what red meat did." When that they're not talking about grass-fed ribeyes, So
Did you initially try any other diet before getting into the animal base?
I wouldn't say I was plant-based, but I ate a largely vegetable-based diet, and I really did limit my red meats. I was one of those people that believed that chicken and fish would be better for me because of my disease, and I had to be really careful. And so, at least a few years, I ate very little to no beef, very little to no pork. Occasionally some bacon, but never, never eating a sufficient amount of beef or pork. Really, only just eating chicken and some fish and lots of vegetables, dude. I cooked some vegetables and some teriyaki sauce, and I was like, I didn't even have protein. I'm like thinking, oh yeah, vegetables is gonna be so good for my colitis. Some red flags along the way for a couple reasons, and one of them was that when I would sometimes just eat vegetables for lunch, I would get so bloated. I would eat because I was still hungry. I was like, something's not right about this. I don't think, plant-based approach really make a lot of sense. But I was still times I did end up eating some beef and I actually felt quite well after eating it. But sometimes the catering would make chicken with a cream sauce. And I was not doing like any dairy at this time. So I was like, damn, I got to either do the steak or the chicken with the cream sauce. So I would say no to the chicken. I just end up eating the steak out of just being starving, and I would feel better when I ate the steak. I'm like, how does it make sense? They say red meat causes inflammation. I feel less inflamed when I eat it. I think my dad would sometimes make a beef pot roast, and I'd have a few bites, and I would find myself feeling good. And I was very aware of how different foods affected me because with that disease, you could eat the wrong thing and feel inflamed within seconds. Yeah, I didn't really like follow a strict diet like I did with animal based, but I would avoid a lot of foods, and I was very pro vegetable. And so once I switched to animal based, I think that's probably why I saw such huge improvements.
What were the signs and symptoms you experienced with Crohn's disease?
Yep, it was senior year of high school. It was late in the year, and I just started having terrible just diarrhea and pains. I would wake up in the morning, and my stomach would just be cramping so bad. You get in the truck, and I'd be like, "No, I got to go back to the bathroom one more time," even though I had already gone 3 or 4 times that morning. It would be like after I ate, I would get a lot of pains. Being a lineman on the football team, we all ate like crap, right? It's like a constant bulk of fast food and whatever you can shove in your face. So we'd eat Panda Express and Chipotle, and I would immediately have these terrible symptoms where I needed a bathroom urgently, or it got worse and worse to where I actually started missing some days of school. I'd say, "Mom, I can't go to school today. I can't even get out of the bathroom." And then so finally I went in as I think actually just as the year had ended, I was able to kind of somehow just feel good enough to get through the year. That summer after graduating, I went to a gastroenterologist, and she said, "Hey, I think it's time for you to get a colonoscopy." And being 18, I'm like, "What the hell is wrong with me? I'm 18 years old getting a colonoscopy. Usually men don't get that until their 50s." So that was like kind of freaking me out. And I had ulcerative colitis, which is first diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, and then a colonoscopy a few years later diagnosed me with Crohn's. So they're two very similar diseases, but they're slightly different.
Did you tell anyone what you were going through?
My real closest friends like Fig and Johnny Wise, I think they knew that I was in pain, and there was a few times I missed school. But once I got diagnosed, I think I started telling them soon after, and they were definitely like there for me about it, cool about it. It was a pretty solo, lonely battle.
Is it hard eating out at restaurants?
When I go out, I still eat very limited. So, but it doesn't feel limited to me, right? Like we were out in Utah on this trip we just went, and my wife and her sister really wanted to go to In-N-Out Burger because that's something that was important to them. So I'm like, no problem. And I got burger patties. I got some grilled onions because the onions are cooked in the beef fat on the griddle, and I'll get like some pickles, right? Because pickles are cucumbers, which is a fruit, and pickles are a fermented food, so they're actually really good for you. I had this weird looking plate that just had meat and some onions and some pickles. I didn't have any fries. I didn't have none of that, and I feel like I'm missing out. I just enjoy the food that I eat, and sometimes people will make comments and stuff, and it truly does not bother me, dude. I can just say that with being maybe the weird guy or whatever it is, because I know what it's like to be sick, and I know what it's like to be healthy. And to more about this diet, and I know more about it, I learned about raw dairy. And so now if I consume dairy that's unpasteurized that I get from the farmer's market, I feel amazing. So I may not eat a lot of the foods out at the restaurants, but at home I've got some raw milk ice cream and some really good cheese. And my wife will make sourdough bread, which is the easiest type of bread to digest because it's been fermented and it's clean, only a few ingredients. So I may not eat the bread at the restaurant, but if I really want bread, every once in a while I can have a little bit at home.
Do you recommend this diet to an average person, or do you recommend them going to a doctor first?
I would recommend it absolutely. The only time I would recommend someone to consult a doctor first, perhaps, have known cholesterol issues or the rare occasion of having an allergy to meats or something like that. And I would put all the money in on my bet that your numbers get better after the diet. And again, there's going to be the rare occasion where people don't have as much success. But then I would love to know how they're going about this diet. Are they getting enough fat in their diet? Are they actually eating a lot of organs or high quality meats, or are they just sticking to the lower quality chicken, for example?
How did your previous diet affect your exercise?
Issue with my shoulders, and I would say probably not related to Crohn's, but just a separate thing I was dealing with. And playing football for many years, um, I did a lot of ego lifting, a lot of ego weightlifting. And one thing I was really big on was the bench press, right? That was my strongest lift. I was a freshman. I actually won a competition at a hog tournament we used to call, which were like lineman tournaments where we would do all these different little competitions. And I did the most reps I think it was with like 95 pounds. We were like 14, and I got first place out of like 100 guys. And so, yeah, I was really big on the bench press. That was my thing. And I began to have a lot of subluxations in practice and sometimes in games. And I was blessed to never fully dislocate my shoulders, but just lots of pain and subluxing. Football career, I got back into boxing because I boxed a lot when I was yeah, man. So when I was in middle school, I competed in amateur boxing, did a lot of boxing, and I agitated the shoulder a bit too. So got to a point where I had to go to a doctor, and he told me that I needed to get an MRI, and MRI said both of my labrums were torn on each shoulder. So that was not fun. That was not good. So I went ahead and I got surgery on my left one because it was worse. And I was really having a hard time getting my shoulder back to where it was, before the pain got bad. I finally found a really good physical therapist out here in Florida. His name is Dr. Rob August. Shout out to Dr. Rob at All Pro Physical Therapy. Strengthening the stabilizer muscles, strengthening the lower traps. And then he also told me, once we finish our program, I'll train you and I'll help you get back into weight training because I wanted someone that was going to help me weight train in a safe way so I didn't keep running into these issues. Since I didn't go through insurance, he was able to really help me work on both of my shoulders, not just the left one. So um, my right shoulder got a lot stronger with my left, and now I have very little to no issues with it. So I was able to get back in bench pressing, and yeah, I would love to. Yeah, a few things, man. So real quick, I would just also say I've really liked a lot of your videos too because it totally resonates with what Dr. Rob worked on me with, and as far as being in the correct posture and utilizing bands and stretches to open up those muscles and stay in a correct position, and being someone like myself that drives a ton. Even though I'm doing better now, I really have to keep those kind of things in mind. If I don't stretch and strengthen and focus on it, I find myself going back into my old ways and having more pain again. You pretty much covered it, dude. I like your content, man. I appreciate your words about mine as well. And kudos to you, man, for getting out of your shell and pushing through. I do pretty well on YouTube, actually. I have, I mean, my YouTube, I was already kind of doing before I went strictly on my health coaching, career. So I was posting like videos of animals and stuff like that, like, you know, wild animals and going to the zoo and stuff like that, but as well as like diet and food stuff still. But I have a video that has 5 million views on YouTube. Great talking. Take care, Andre. Bye.